The world has ended. God is no longer in his heaven, and nothing is right with the world. Most have died, and those who remain have succumbed to the evil inside themselves, twisting into crooked reflections of their own thoughts. Streets became corridors of flesh. Prayers have fallen on deaf ears, and the memories of the lost have begun to rot. At the center of the ruin stands a tower that was assuredly built as a monument to our sins, unwavering in its persistence at a continued existence. The only instruction you are given is simple: go down. Inside, the architecture behaves like an optical illusion. Rooms rearrange when you look away, giving the map agency to lie to you, preying on the deepest of human subconscious fear. The things you find feel designed by a theology student with a sense of humor. Parasitic orbs that attach themselves to you and your gear. Crystals of Idea Sephira that rewrite your strengths and weaknesses, as if changing and adding to the penance you must pay for traversing such a place. Branding irons that mark the soul with permanent bargains. Consciousness boxes that allow a single treasured item to cheat death alongside you. The tower thrives on savagery and degeneracy. Two gauges rule survival: health and vitality. Vitality drains with every movement, every nervous swing, every step taken in the wrong direction. When it empties, health begins to bleed away. To live, you must eat the remains of the ones who came before. Flesh to heal wounds, hearts to strengthen vitality, bones to harden the body. Consume them while full, and your limits grow, as if the place rewards your slow descent into debauchery more than courage. The inhabitants of the tower are called meta-beings, humans digested by their private sins, nurses stitched from guilt, soldiers grew from loyalty that spoiled, saints whose halos cut the ceiling when they bow. You execute them out of kindness, giving them the only true mercy a denizen of this tower is allowed. The archangel dubs it purification, to exorcise them from their hell, though it feels wrong to call the brutality enacted in accordance with the wishes of those above mercy. It must be done in order to progress. Experience gathers in your muscles, only to be washed away once you fall to your knees. Much like the beings you fight in Baroque, only death will set you free. One of the more distinguishing things about this is the lack of certainty. The phrase death and taxes need not apply here, because the only way to move forward through this monument to depravity is to die, both in the literal sense and the physical. Each time you fall, the world moves forward. New conversations appear, corridors expand, the tower grows extra organs like a cancer spreading throughout. No one remembers who built the tower, only that it grew after the blaze, like a scar that refused to close. You wake beside it with no name and no past, greeted by the archangel, serene and immaculate, who presses a weapon into your hands and tells you to descend. The angelic rifle, the tool to bring humanity from its brink. The gun carries 5 shots, each one capable of erasing any creature in a single heartbeat. No struggle, no resistance, just silence. The limit is deliberate, mercy measured in bullets. Outside, the survivors cling to their rituals of normalcy. The Baroque monger reads forbidden spheres and sells the futures he finds there. The bagged one recites memories that may not be his. The horned girl speaks the thoughts others are too frightened to voice. The coffin man trains the living by rehearsing the shapes of their deaths. The collector, a boy who believes objects remember their owners. Through glowing consciousness orbs, he returns a handful of items to your next life. 5 at first. More if you earn his trust. Hope smuggled across the mortal coil. They orbit the entrance, like moons around a gravity they pretend not to feel. As you traverse the aforementioned illusory hellscape, you encounter Alice and Eliza, not quite guides, and not quite obstacles. Alice speaks in careful, fragile sentences, as if testing whether you deserve to hear her words after a previous engagement, the memory of which you lost many people ago. Eliza searches for pure water to soothe a mother driven mad by distortion, her requests feeling less like errands and more like rehearsals for a memory you should recognize. They are the shapes that God created to replace what was stolen from them. Their presence turns an otherwise doom-like progression into a, if it could be possible, metaphysical experience. Moving on from prose about gameplay and characters, we should elucidate the plot. The story unravels in much the same way you do. Through exploration, you find understanding. Long before you opened your eyes, the Order of Malcoth believed they had found salvation. They discovered that God had returned to the earth, and scattered across the continents lay enormous spheres known as consciousness orbs, sensory spheres selectively cycling through the compressed reality God had left. The Order wanted understanding, and like all great researchers that confuse curiosity with entitlement, they began to experiment. The distortions arrived subtly at first, unnoticeable breaks in reality, minor changes in temperament to an already tense world. Then people began to change in ways that could not be written off. The archangel's own sister became the first meta-being, and from that moment, the world learned that faith could rot. Malcoth answered the crisis with great haste and invention. They created artificial consciousness orbs meant to stabilize the warping landscape. But the false copies only deepened the wound, like prayers spoken inside a cathedral whose God had long since left. The archangel, frightened of God's ability to repair the damage, performed a gentler cruelty. He materialized a way to remove pain from God and poured corrupted data into the orbs to keep it confused, harvesting that stolen suffering and shaping it into small creatures called the Littles. The Littles could only live inside glass ampules, fragile distortions of divine agony cultivated by Dr. Angelicus and the Long Neck. Their purpose was simple and obscene: to be fired as bullets from the angelic rifle, tools with which the archangel intended to purify the god and steal its idea Sephiroth, the blueprint for a new and obedient world. Some within Malcoth saw the shape of this blasphemy. The Coriel, a secret circle of high-ranking members, decided that instead of murdering the god, they would touch it directly, fusing a human consciousness with it to hear its will. Among the Coriel were a pair of conjoined twins who shared a single heart. Only one of them could live at a time. and both were dying slowly in alternating breaths. The Order chose the younger brother, the protagonist, to be the vessel, sacrificing the elder so that the fusion might succeed. When the archangel learned of this plan, he interrupted the ritual in terror, and the collision of ambitions ignited the catastrophe, remembered as the Blaze. The god, wounded by the interruption, created Alice and Eliza to fill the gap in its design. Two figures born to stand where the missing brother should have been. After the Blaze, the world no longer knew how to remain human. You survived, but the price was voice and memory. God gained the ability to speak through others, and you became mute, carrying instead the power to purify the meta-beings who wandered the ruins. The consciousness of your dead brother seeped into the great orbs and waited, eventually fusing back with you during the event called the Darbar, a reunion that felt less like healing than like being haunted by your own blood. This is the history that has long since passed you by. The Archangel, indifferent and patient, meets you at its threshold, smiling with the kind of smile you would seldom find on an honest man. The Neuro Tower erected behind him, like a solemn reminder of our sins. As descents accumulate, the Archangel's design becomes impossible to ignore. He wants the god purified by the very pain he removed from it, the pain he himself felt upon looking at the god. He intends to fire the littles back into their source and claim the idea Sephiroth for a remade creation. Every instruction he gives is another step towards the theft of the survivors' futures. At the final depth, the choice arrives without fanfare. You could complete the Archangel's arithmetic, cleanse the god, and help build a flawless cage for the future. But could you? After the sacrifice of your lives and countless others, would you lay the solution at another man's feet? No. Instead, you listen. You gather Alice and Eliza, the littles, the murmuring consciousness of your brother, and you step into God with the only intention of brokering peace. The fusion is a sweet embrace that you've been denied all game. Closure. The distortions of the world remain, yet they are accepted rather than amputated. And in that acceptance, something like freedom dawns, like a new day upon the world. The streets are still decimated, and people still carry monsters in their minds, but they no longer turn into them quite so easily. Near the tower, the Collector waits with his orbs arranged like a patient constellation, and the angelic rifle waits beside him. 5 small mercies dreaming of a day it should be needed again. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it and consider subscribing, we really appreciate you watching these videos. Baroque is a rather unique game with a roguelike playstyle and a Doom-like aesthetic. If you find yourself with the time to play, please do so. The remake is available on Switch and other platforms. As for future releases, we have one more video to release before we drop our first major project. We as a team have been working hard on it. Anyway, let us know your thoughts and feelings in the comments. And as always, have a great day.